1949, Mr. Nick Creme, who you see here, originated the plastic worm. Although he originated in Akron, Ohio, both Nick and the Creme Lure Company now makes their headquarters in Tyler, Texas. And he created a mighty fine fishing lure when he created the plastic worm, and in the years to follow from 1949, I guess this lure became one of the finest fish catchers known to fishermen today, and we owe an awful lot of thanks to Mr. Creme. And on behalf of Nick and the Creme Lure Company, Mr. Tracy Woods and myself want to take you on a fishing trip to Toledo Bend Reservoir, and we intend to bring some real exciting black bass action your way that will definitely entertain you, but we hope along the way that we will have a lot of education packed in this little deal, and enough that we can add a fish or two to your stringer the next time you go out on the lake. And along with watching all the action, you be sure and watch for that one little thing that Tracy or myself may do that will help you. Now, it looked as though Nick loaded up Tracy with a few extra baits, and we're pulling away from the boat dock and going to go out on this lake that happens to be one of the largest in the United States, I would imagine. It's located right on the Texas-Louisiana line. It's kind of a joint effort between the two states, and it's a mighty fine lake. Now, Tracy here is spread out a bunch of cream worms, getting them all ready, rigged up on the slip sinker to catch some bass. This is one of the most important things about this plastic worm fishing, and most of our fishing today will be done with slip sinkers. The slip sinker goes on first, and then about a 4 or 5/0 worm hook, and then the worm is threaded on. And pay real good attention to how this is threaded on, because this is the thing that makes this worm real weedless. First of all, is put right in the head and pulled out after about a 1/4 of an inch, pulled on down into the worm, and the barb is buried back into the about the egg sac of the worm, and this keeps it very weedless, makes you able to work it through the brush and the woods and the rocks and just about anything without getting it hung up. And yet when Mr. Bass gets a hold of it, a jerk at the right time will set the hook through the fish. Here it is again. The eye is pulled on down through the head of the worm, and then the barb is buried back into the worm. Creme lures float, and this is one of the reasons it's become one of the favorites with fishermen. When it hits on the bottom, you will be able to get the floating action that definitely lures that bass just a little bit better quite often. Now then, we're going to get at the main part of the deal, the fishing trip. For this lake is full of bass, and Tracy and I have pulled up on a roadbed in the middle of the timber. It's very obvious that we're in the middle of the timber, but it's not obvious that we are on a roadbed. But this is the thing that made this particular place real good for these smaller bass. And right away we are fast at it. Just about every occasion when the fish is landed, you're going to notice that the worm has slid up the line possibly 2 foot. Not every occasion, but on some occasions. And where that won't be confusing, let me explain that the reason that happens is because as the fish comes up to the top of the water and surfaces, or gets next to the boat and does a lot of flopping around, his head shaking action knocks the cream lure up the line for a foot to 2 foot sometimes, and then it's just a simple matter of sliding it back down and putting it in place again, and you're ready to go. You know, fishermen all have their ideas about colors, and sometimes I wonder if color makes a whole lot of difference. And incidentally, Tracy landed a real nice bass right here. Real nice fish. But we used purple and blue on this fishing trip, just about all together, and we used a few purple with red tails. But I would like to point out that these good cream worms come in just about every color of the rainbow, and the two-tone color, of course. And for there's the incident of the worm up the hook, incidentally. And you can also see the slip sinker. But for the fisherman who is interested in different colors, we can sure take care of them. Having a lot of fun at this fishing. This is, of course, the main thing you want to be doing, along with the fish catching. If your luck happens to be a little on the slack side, and you want to enjoy it the best you can. I always try this myself, and Tracy's with me, of course. But on this particular day, we're not having to worry too much about bass action. I hope you will notice each time the occasion arises that these plastic worms are worked very slowly and very carefully along the bottom. Now, sometimes to work them a little bit faster when you're not around the brush. My idea is, though, if you're not around the brush, you might be working it in the wrong place. Got a wild one up next to the boat there. But work them very slowly and carefully, and bob them through that brush that is obviously on the bottom and around the rocks, and give the worm time to maybe stop and settle for just a minute, where the tail of this floating cream worm has an opportunity to stick up and really look attractive to the fish. And also, this careful working through the brush will help you from getting hung up a great deal of the time too. And when you put as least amount of jerking into the action of the worm, I think your chances are a lot better on not getting hung up. Of course, sometimes if you're in open water, or even in the brush, the jerking method can prove to be very, very fish catching. So you really got to try different ways until you figure out the pattern of the fish. Of course, the hook setting is about as important as the rest of the worm fishing. And you can see that Tracy settled on the fish after about 2, possibly 3 seconds of after the strike was made. The worm fishing rod is very important to the worm fisherman. I always put it like fishing with the worm rod that is not suited to worm fishing is about like duck hunting with a 22, or a golfer driving with a 7-iron. It just makes an awful lot of difference if you're fishing with the right equipment for this worm fishing. Most of these fish are pound to 2.5 pound bass. There's a good hook setting job. Just real good catching size fish. The kind of fish you can enjoy being in all day long. We've used a depth finder to find this place, and we found that in this worm fishing in the summertime, when the heat gets into the lakes, that a depth finder is very important in finding the sunken islands and the drop-offs and the creek channels where the fish should be congregated. Now, if one doesn't have a depth finder, it's also very important that you get out and try to find these places. There's another look again as Tracy rigs up the 80-inch scoundrel this time, and going to try him for a while. Most of those fish were caught on shimmy gals to begin with. And Tracy's beginning to switch around a little bit. Tracy's a fine fisherman. I believe you can tell that as the film rolls here. And although we can't see down there in the bottom of that lake, it must be going through Tracy's mind right now what that worm looks like on the bottom. And here you can see the advantage of the slip sinker and how the weedless hook, the barb buried back into the worm, works as this bait floats along the bottom. And this is just about the action you should give it, and you'll notice that that tail, in this case happens to be a red tail, works very lifelike. Notice how it floats right straight up. It also has enough movement to look very lifelike, even when it's left still on the bottom. Boy, it looks like Mr. Bass ought to just jump right out from behind that rock and grab a hold of that cream worm. Boy, that looks fishy. Of course, this action is done with a nice slow movement of the rod, complete control of his rod and reel. Tracy has been a field tester for approximately 10 years for the Creme Lure Company, and was one of the original field testers, as a matter of fact. So he's been at this worm fishing an awful long time. Does an excellent job. The very next chance we get now, pay particular close. Here comes a doubleheader right there, and I lost mine in the front of the boat, but I believe Tracy's still in business. I started to tell you to watch close for the next sequence that shows how slowly the rod is moved back and forth. Right here it is, just easing the worm through the brush. Matter of fact, you want to always pick your worm up with your rod and not your reel. Actually, the reel is only used to keep the slack out of your line, and all of your feeling and moving and hook setting is done with the rod. Going to a blue shimmy gal right here. The hook pulled down into the head, and again the barb buried below into the worm where it's just about to come out, but not quite. And of course, you can be very careful with it, and it will not come out as you're fishing. I think at this time we are using possibly a 3/8 to half-ounce slip sinker, and we're fishing in 15 feet of water. Of course, this method of fishing the cream worm will not only work in 15, 20, and 40 feet of water, but it'll also work in 2 and 5 and 6 feet of water. It's a proven fish getter at all depths at just about any time of the year. Now, most of the worms that we're rigging up and showing are loose worms, just coming right out of our tackle box. But as you go to the store to buy cream worms, you'll find them packed in several different packings, anywhere from one worm, if you're looking for rigged worms, all the way to 4 or 5 worms if you're looking for them packed with the slip sinker and the hook all together. And this packaging is available, and along with the slip sinkers and the hooks and the worms is also very good illustrations on how to rig it up and how to fish it. Now, if you've already got slip sinkers and hooks, like a lot of good worm fishermen would already have, cream worms, of course, come in all series, either the Scoundrel or the Shimmy Gal or the Shimmy Babe series, packed individually in packages where you can apply your own slip sinker and your own hook. And we've got plenty of worms to show you, and showing those fish a few. Real fine baits, and we think that one of the big reasons for this is the floating actions and the true colors of all the cream worms. We've got some real fine field testers all over the country that are working daily at this fishing to make sure we keep right up with the up-to-date thing and bring a good product your way. Hope someday in your fishing travels you're able to fish Toledo Bend. It's a great lake. Now, Tracy is rigging up a jig head on this particular worm. We felt like we better give it a whirl too. And this is kind of an odd little turnabout here. I want you to pay real close attention to it. No slip sinker involved here, just a straight lead head jig. And we're using a 6-inch Scoundrel, which was the original worm that Mr. Creme originated back there in 1949. And Tracy's getting her all rigged up here. And he's going to put on a demonstration about how to cast and how to work it through the water. Now, pay real close attention. The bait is cast the normal length. Reasonable amount of time is delayed as the bait falls, and then Tracy begins to pick it up with his rod. He feels the strike right there and sets the hook. Fish comes fighting to the surface, about a 2-pound largemouth bass, puts on a pretty good show for us, and then is boated. Can't beat that, Mr. Tracy Wood. I don't know if he's more proud of the fish or more proud of the fact that he caught it while we was paying such close attention to him. But anyway, we found that the jig head did do the job, and I would like to point out that although 99% of the fish we caught on this trip were caught with a slip sinker method, that sometime you may have the occasion to fish cream lure with a jig head, and it will definitely work that way too. Getting back to Toledo Bend, the lake itself, as you can see, we're in lots and lots of timber about every way you can look, and this is the majority of the fish are caught in these type areas, and there's lots of it on the lake. A big portion of the lake is solid timber. And I think that the lake is some 75 to 80 miles long. Just an awful big lake. And again, I say that it's right on the border of Texas and Louisiana, just south of Shreveport, some 100 miles. Now, we have moved away from our casting for these bass, and we're going to do something just a little bit different that I believe you may be interested in watching. We've pulled back into this thick timber, and we're going to do what they call around Toledo Bend a little bit of jigging. And this isn't something that you may be doing on your favorite lake, but I think you might like to see it for a minute anyway. We're getting into fairly shallow water and just jigging the shimmy gal around the brush top. Now, you have to be pretty quick with this deal. You got to have good reflexes and be ready to jerk those bass away from the brush piles and into the boat, because they'll pop the plastic worm just about like a crappie would hitting a little crappie jig, and a quick jerk and a fast retrieve to the boat, and as you can see, the action can be very, very fast. Now, again, this isn't something that you do on all lakes over the countryside, although it may work on a few of your lakes with either size cream worm. You want to give her a try. It is something, though, I thought you might enjoy seeing for just a little bit here. The Toledo Bend bass are beautiful things. The timber must make it where these bass come out a little bit blacker than the ordinary bass out of the ordinary lake, and real pretty yellow sides, and lots and lots of them. I told you this action was real fast, and you can see that it is fast. In fact, it was just about every man for himself, and when I'd catch a fish on the front end of the boat, if I had to go to the trouble of coming to the back of the boat to put him in the live well, I just about lost my place. Well, I'll tell you what, Tracy's going to try to do battle with one more fish in this jigging method, and then I think we're going to bundle up and go home for the day. Got one on the front end of the boat, and Tracy's still got his hung up in the brush top, and this is real tough fishing. This just something real different. Not as nice as that good open water that we was doing with those good green worms a minute ago. Tracy's still a fighting one. We ended up culling out a real nice bunch of fish, as you would imagine, and this is something that is not unusual for this lake at any time of the year. And you can catch them on plastic worms down there at any time of the year. Had a beautiful day to do it in. And I don't believe that circumstances could have been one bit better. Now, something I would like to close this film with, again on behalf of Mr. Nick Creme, who has been so big in the fishing industry over the years, that I hope that you will be able to take advantage of these great outdoors that we have these days and get out and enjoy them. And I also am very concerned and hoping that you will also take care of these great outdoors of ours and free all of our streams and lakes and rivers of all pollution and litter, and put them back just like we've got them, just like Mother Nature fixed them up for us in the first place. It's really important to me and the Creme Lure Company. And again, I might say that we hope you have enjoyed the bass fishing action, and most of all, we hope that maybe you have picked up a few pointers that will help you out on the very next fishing trip you do, whether it's on Toledo Bend or any lake in the United States that you are able to fish. And we for sure hope that you're able to fish every chance you get. Thank you, and let's go fishing.